Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. Absolutely right here, right now, celebrating you, the industrial professionals, the companies that get it done. You are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly, you innovate. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for changing lives. Thank you for changing the world and making me and a gazillion other people definitely better. We appreciate it, and we celebrate you on this particular podcast, which happens to be the number one industrial-related podcast in the universe. So there you go. We've got a great interview, and we're talking about innovation, and we're talking about disruption, and boy, is that just a timely conversation to have, especially in this, pandemic COVID world. As a business, we've got to innovate, and so we've got a great conversation with a gentleman by the name of Neil Sahota, and he teaches at the University of California in Irvine. Been there, great university, great people there. And it's an absolute honor to have him on the Industrial Talk Podcast to share a little bit about innovation and disruption. So let's get going. If you're looking at the video, Dave's Insanity Sauce is on the shirt. And my gosh, if you want something to blow your mind, if you like spicy hot sauce, definitely Dave's Insanity is for you. They've got various degrees of intensity, most definitely. Great company, great people. Definitely check them out on the World Wide Web. All right, I've been hammering on what companies are really looking into, because I've just been talking to a ton of them, and they're looking into, how do I retain talent? How do I manage risk? How do I save money? How do I make money? Definitely, thank you. And how do I continue now in this particular environment, create some resiliency? And with that mindset, we got to collaborate. You got to collaborate. You got to step back from your pride, thinking you have all the answers, and really collaborate with really key individuals that you trust, that provide wisdom and insight. Very important, because now is the time. Now is the time for you to be successful, and you're looking for people to help you navigate those waters. We need to innovate. Look at Neil, man. Neil is going to be talking a lot about innovation and disruption, and not just using technology, but how to use that technology to really solve problems and innovate through to success. That's real important. And of course, we're all about education. Industrial Academy out there on the Industrial Talk Podcast site. Education. And we highlight real innovative leaders within their profession on that particular platform. You got to do it with a sense of speed. We cannot lollygag. We've got to be nimble, and we've got to be willing to feel a little pain, a little sting from making mistakes, because I know I truly sympathize with the challenge that exists today in business. And I'm just here to say, please, keep moving forward. Keep pushing. There are people in your corner that truly want to help you succeed. And we're here. The Industrial Talk platform is here to make sure that you get your message out and hopefully succeed. Get through this time of safety through to prosperity. All right. Enough with that. Remember, there's so much stuff out there, and we are just here to help. Just please, we need you. Get engaged. All right. Neil Sahota's the interview. And once again, we were talking about, how we were saying innovation is great. It is. It's technology. And there are just incredible, brilliant minds out there that are leveraging and just pushing the envelope when it comes to technology. It is an enabler for success, for disruption, but to really create some level of resiliency going forward in your business. And you're going to have to educate yourself on all this. So Neil brings a wheelbarrow full of incredible insights, not just, with AI, machine learning, but technology in general and how that disruption can truly help you today in this time because, well, we have the time to really try to figure this out. So that's the good side of what we're dealing with. Neil Sahota on the Industrial Talk podcast. Enjoy the interview. Neil, welcome to the Industrial Talk podcast. So glad that you are here. Thank you very much for joining and taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to our wonderful listeners. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, Scott. How you doing?
Hey, well, I thank you very much for asking me because I'm doing okay. Thank you. If you want to interview me, you go right ahead. It's not a big deal. But anyway, for the listeners out there, we've got a great topic to talk about with Neil, and we're going to start talking about, but after get the timing right here, innovation and disruption. But before we go into that topic, give us a little background on who you are there, Neil, for the listeners to sort of establish a baseline of why you're such an incredible professional.
Well, I'll try and give you the short version here. I started my post-college career as a management consultant, helping global Fortune 500 companies with their business strategy, marketplace strategy, developing new products and services. And I'm the guy that likes to be disruptive and innovate and think of the outside-the-box options. And so as a result of my work, I want to create like a lot of patents that are intellectual property. Some of that is now we call machine learning. I got a call from IBM R&D one day about some of my work, and next thing I know, I was asked if I would be interested in joining a project called Watson. So I've
heard of it. I've interviewed some people with the Watson thingy on their business card.
Yeah. So I wound up being part of that team before there was a Watson, and after the Jeopardy challenge, the big question is what do we do? And I help build out that whole ecosystem, open up the platform for people to use technology, bring in their domain expertise, their problems to create new products and services and help them do that.
More problems?
Yeah. More problems. There's always problems. There's
always problems.
We want new problems.
Yeah, but also new opportunities and opportunities to really succeed in whatever you're trying to do. So let's sort of lay the foundation. One, I've been preaching, as I told you before, I've been preaching about, especially today, COVID. Don't mean to not evergreen this, but COVID's in the room, right? So the COVID situation, I believe there needs to be more collaboration, more innovation, and not just from a technology point of view, but what you're going to talk about, and that is there's technology, but how do you leverage that technology in such a way that you become a disruptor and then take action, of course, because that's where we're at. So give us a little sort of a rundown on just in general, when we start talking about innovation, what do you mean by that?
Great question, Scott. I'll start off with automation because that's how we normally think about machines and computers. Right? Automation, we're trained to think about how we do something faster, cheaper, less errors. Right? But we're doing that with an existing product or service. Innovation is really about changing the process, the product, or the system so that we're actually doing something differently. We're just finding a different way of doing it or a different way of creating value. And we have technology now like AI that we have these new capabilities where we can do that, or we have capabilities we've never had before. We can actually do something entirely new. Like now we're actually using machines to help us look at the emotional state of a person, figure out how we can communicate with that person better, or help them do a little assessment on, are they suicidal? Are they depressed?
Yeah.
But these are things we normally would have thought about coming to machines and using them.
See, this is interesting because every time when we start talking about that, there are two questions that I'm going to fire at you. What's the difference between AI and machine learning?
Great question. Machine learning is one part of AI. Machine learning is basically we give the machine lots and lots of data, and we give it something called ground truth, rules on how to make decisions. And so by look at the data, the machine will start creating its own patterns or its own algorithms. So we're not coding algorithms for it, it's figuring it out on its own.
That's AI or machine learning?
That's machine learning. AI takes that machine learning, but also has to understand natural language. I mean, think about how we talk, Scott. We use so much slang and jargon. I tell you, I'm feeling...
Hell yeah.
You know? like if I'm feeling blue, what does the machine think? I'm physically the color blue, right? It's not about looking at keywords. It's taking context from the conversation. It's looking at syntax, grammar, all these things. So when it comes to AI, it's machine learning, it's natural language understanding, and the ability just to be able to communicate like it's a person, like the back and forth we're doing now, rather than kind of a unidirectional, I'll try some keywords, get some results, try some more keywords, get some results.
Oh, I see. Like Hal on 2001, A Space Odyssey. You can have a conversation to a certain extent.
Agreed, but hopefully less psychotic.
Yeah. That's the dark side of that whole conversation. Now, we talk about it. The other question I have, among others, is where do you see it going? Right? We're still, and I've had this conversation a number of times with a number of professionals within industry, and that is, okay, we're talking AI, we're talking machine learning, we're talking about all this stuff, but really we're still at the beginning of this whole whatever journey we're on.
We very much are. I know there's a lot of hype out there. And, there's a lot of hand waving going on, but there is some real AI stuff going on, but it's what we call ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, meaning that the machine can do something really well, but it's a small subset. It's a very specialized type of task, like processing claims. And it only does what we teach it to do. So it's not sitting there thinking well, cool, I can process claims. Maybe I'll learn how to drive a car.
Right.
AI can't do that. That we call AGI, artificial general intelligence. And as far as anyone knows, we're probably decades away from figuring that piece out.
I can only imagine. I mean, that's just some of the conversations I've had, Neil, is that there are just, every time you, and this goes right into your disruption conversation, but every time you start moving forward and you start looking at the technology and you start then bantering it back and forth with your compadres, and you start realizing that there's so much more, and it's almost, you just get distracted by all the little shiny opportunities out there, but you got to just sort of be pragmatic and move forward. But the opportunities are significant.
No, they're huge, and I think this is the thing that people don't get, is that these new capabilities, we are really tapping into some unique opportunities as a result. You want to talk about disruption? There's a startup called Legalmation. It was started by 3 lawyers, not a whole lot of technical knowledge, but they were talking about problems. And, remember we were chatting over lunch one day about possibilities, and, they're talking about where are the urinal cake opportunities in law? Where are those tedious tasks that require some level of cognition that nobody really wants to do but has to be done? That was the right opportunity for AI. They actually want to build in an AI, like associate lawyer, that can actually read, a complaint, generate interrogatory questions, and write up some court documents and deposition questions, right? And it's very tedious work. It's something that, an average lawyer might take 8 to 12 hours to do. Their AI does it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty powerful stuff. Now, with that said, why is this important? Why? And again, we'll go into the other elements, but why is this important?
Well, it's, we're talking about, we're going into the 4th industrial revolution now, and AI is the driver.
Industry 4.0.
Yep.
Well,
and you think about all the things in our lives, professionally and personally, at least 90% of it is going to change. Just how we do things is going to change. I mean, think back to your life.
I think that's a truth bomb right there, man. You're saying 90% of the way we do business, generally speaking, is going to change some way, shape, or form.
That's right.
Boom.
Think back 10 years ago. How different was life, right? I asked people, what was life before you had a smartphone? And they're like, oh, feels like the Stone Age. But, the iPhone came out less than 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? 10 years ago, there was no rideshare. There was no Uber Lyft. There was no Bitcoin really out there. People weren't worried about blockchain.
Hey, speaking of blockchain, I had some couple of conversations with permission-based blockchain with some companies that are doing that. Here's the funny thing. So when you were a kid and I was a kid, did your parents say, hey, never get into a car with a stranger? Now they have an app to be able to make it easy to get in the car with a stranger. And it's efficient, and you know where it's at.
That's a great example, professionally and personally.
It was like, yeah, it's so funny. And we just do it without even thinking, man. It just happens. And it makes, that's just one just super duper sliver of how the world and how industry and how life in general is changing. Now, what I enjoyed about what you were talking about is that's all fine. Technology and the way people are thinking and pushing the envelope, it's all fine. But that's not theoretically disruption. And why is disruption important?
I think disruption is important because it just fundamentally, we know that the way we do things is going to have to change, right? Even if things are working, there's probably a better, more efficient way of doing that. I mean, Kodak was the king of film for over 100 years. And what happened to them, right? They went bankrupt. And what was digital camera? But who invented the digital camera? Steve Sassoon, a Kodak engineer in 1976. Like the technology 20 years before anybody else. They just won, like, is it worth the investment? It's a lot of upfront costs. It would cannibalize our film business, right? But if they had pursued it, they would have been the kings of digital. We don't have Kodak phones right
category now. King in a big freaking way. Absolutely, yeah. That's a wake-up call. That is God, that's a wake-up call, because you wonder how many, that's an example, but how many businesses out there have that one individual in the back office that has that technology, whatever that solution that's disruptive, and I think today, given this virus world we live in, I think innovation, disruption, I think companies have to look at each part of their business and question every aspect of it. And I'm not saying it in a negative way, but are you doing something more efficiently? Can you do it differently? Can you shrug off some risk? Can you create some resiliency in your business model? All of these conversations have got to happen, and they got to happen yesterday.
Oh, for sure. And I hate to say this, but COVID-19 has like shown a light on all the weaknesses, the gaps, the deficiencies in our processes, our supply chain that they were okay enough, and now suddenly they're taxed beyond belief and things are breaking, right? We know that we go into a post-COVID world, we can't just accept these things anymore. We have to find a different way of doing some of these things.
And I think in the pre-virus world, and this is just my everybody heard about ML and AI and all of the other merging technologies, but they had a plan to sort of roll it out. Maybe, maybe 5-6 years, maybe whatever the plan was. And then all of a sudden that's just been obliterated and pushed up because, I mean, it's just is what it is. I mean, you're just going to have to figure it out and make mistakes and be bold. Figure it out.
One of the questions I like to ask people is it good to be successful 100% of the time? They kind of look at me, go, there's some sort of trick here, right? I got to say no, right? So they'll say no. And they're like, well, why? Why would you not want to be successful 100% of the time? They're like, they don't really usually have a good answer. And I really believe that if you're successful 100% of the time, that's not a good thing, because it just tells me you're not taking enough risk.
Look at Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That guy's taking risks, and he's putting himself out there. And first off, I don't even know how he sleeps at night, just because talk about putting somebody, I mean, doggone it. He's got the Tesla and he's got SpaceX all under his umbrella. It's like, wow. One would make my head explode in a big way.
He's a super sharp guy, but I think even he's realizing he can't juggle so many things and do it well at once.
Yeah. But to your point, he put himself out there, and I just think you're going to have to. And I think one of the mindsets that have to really start to change is like, okay, you might stumble, it might hurt, it might fail, it might whatever, but you can always get back up, right? And you've just learned an incredible lesson through that whole whatever bad process, but you've learned an incredible lesson. You are wiser, stronger, right?
No, very, very true. But I think, Scott, you touched on something that's really important, is the mindset, right? We always talk about failure shouldn't be really a bad thing, good lessons, but a lot of people, they don't like change, right? And so to even tackle these things, be innovative, disruptive, you have to change the mindset. And most people's first reaction is, I'm going to poke holes, right? I'm going to find reasons why we can't do it, why it's not going to work. The mindset should really be, if someone has a new idea, the question you should ask is like, how could we make it work? Where are the different paths we might be able to take? And maybe you can't find something viable. That's okay, but at least you tried. Because if you don't try, you're never going to succeed anyways.
You're right. And it doesn't have to be a big bang approach. You can incrementally approach it in a way that okay, I'm gonna get in the hot tub one toe at a time, and I'm gonna try that, and then I'm gonna find out that that's not so bad. I'm gonna put my foot. You can incrementally approach this, but I think the truth to the whole conversation is you better. It's just better, and get advisors that push the envelope too, right?
Yeah, well, 100%.
I mean, people like you. Yeah, reach out to Neil. He'll push the envelope and make you feel uncomfortable. But,
absolutely, that's the way you're going to be disruptive. That's the way you're going to create that next great product, service. How you're going to build that new industry.
And I think from a market share point of view, I mean, if you think business as usual is business as usual, somebody's going to swoop in and grab your market share because they're looking at it from a different angle.
Oh, 100%. Look, was it Walmart, Amazon? I think it was JP Morgan formed a partnership to tackle healthcare. None of them are healthcare companies. And now you look at like the health insurers and some of these clinics, they're suddenly deathly afraid, like they know something we don't know. They're going to do something that we haven't thought of, and they're going to put us out of business, They probably have.
And I was just going to say, it's like I'm shaking my head. They know stuff that you don't know. They just do. You don't want to be on that side of the equation. You want to be on the equation of being able to collaborate with innovative individuals that want to take action and that are not afraid of the sting of making a mistake, because it's just nobody likes it. But I'll tell you right now, industry is going to have to really learn a big lesson on that one. Just telling you right now.
100%. And I think that hopefully, nothing else, something good out of COVID, this will change that mindset and make people take a little more risk, not just fix some of these problems, but think about what's the next big step. Jump ahead of your competition.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Where do you see all this stuff going, man? I mean, you live in that world. I don't. I live in the world of, I barbecued a brie last night, which was delicious, by the way. And if you ever want to barbecue a brie, it's simple, and it's got major delicious returns on that bad boy. Go ahead.
I'll have to give that a try.
You do, but make it. You can't. So you gotta get it on that grill, slap it, get a scoring on it, right? Give it flip. Wrap it in foil. Make sure it's all melty. Pull that foil out. Put some toast points on that bad boy. Yep, easy, quick, delicious. All right, we digressed. So where do you see it going, man?
I really think that we're going to have to revisit a lot of things that we do. I mean, we always talk about self-driving cars. You know what? If you're a real estate developer, right, what are you going to do with parking garages? How are you going to build homes, right? People aren't going to need garages anymore. Yeah. So, and people that already have homes and garages, what are they going to do?
Turn
right?
it into a man cave.
If you're not thinking about these things, you're already behind the curve.
It's true. And I had a conversation with a couple of companies that are trying to innovate in that direction of self-driving vehicles. And how do you wrap that in an insurance policy? I don't know. It's like, who's the first insurance company who's going to step up to the plate and say, I'll insure that self-driving car?
Well, I've heard people say the insurance itself or the vehicle itself needs to get the insurance. Whoever.
That's right. See, those are the questions that, and the incredible part about the conversation we're having is that it's not pie in the sky. It's happening, and these conversations are real. And I just love the heck out of this stuff because he's like, oh yeah, what about that? And I've had a number of conversations with cyber folks. How do you all of that? It's just spectacular for a geek like me, man. Okay, we're going to have to wrap this up, and I'm sorry we're going to have to wrap it up because I can keep on talking and talking and talking. Are you active out there on LinkedIn?
I am. I'm very active, post every day. If people want to come follow me, please do so.
That's Neil Sahota. Did I get that last name right?
That's right. And that's Neil, Neil.
You just wanted to make it difficult for everybody, right? Neil Sahota. Hoda.
That's right.
And, reach out to him. He's got it looks like a Chinese little thing right next to it, too. So you can't miss him. Definitely. I'm looking out on his stat card. It's impressive. It's impressive like this conversation. It's impressive.
Well,
yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, absolutely no problem. And by the way, listeners out there, he is also an author. What's the name of your book?
It's called Own the AI Revolution.
Own the AI Revolution, did you say?
That's right. Own the AI Revolution.
There you go, man. And he says, hey, I've got 5 autographed copies of my book. I'd be all over that like a stink. Speaking of which, I've got books behind me, and I don't see yours.
I'll have to fix that,
just
Scott.
look. Let me just sort of look behind. No, it's not there. I don't see it. But I would love to have one. That would be great. And that's shameless. I'll pay for it. I'll get it. But I want the autographed one. I get autographed ones. Anyway, so we're going to have that out on industrialtalk.com. We're going to have that, the ability to be able to get that. Reach out to him. He's got a great stat card out on LinkedIn. And I really enjoyed this conversation there, Neil.
Me too. Fantastic discussion, Scott.
Yeah, it is. And it's just beginning, baby. All right, you listeners, remember, collaborate, innovate, take action. You're going to have to fail here and there. And time is now. Speed, 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 speed. You stay tuned, listeners. We're going to wrap it up on the other side. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk Podcast. You, Neil, thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Cheers.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right. Again, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk Podcast. I highly recommend that you reach out to Neil Sahota. He's got a mad stat card out there on LinkedIn. You will not be disappointed. He understands. He sees it. He's there just to help you. He just wants to help and provide meaningful insights into what you do. Check him out. LinkedIn is the location. Neil Sahota. That's Shota. First name Neil. Like I said, you will not be disappointed. Okay. Innovation, disruption. We are going through a lot of doggone change right now. It is fluid out there. It is dynamic out there. And the real fact is that we need you. We need you industrial professionals. We need you industrial companies. We want to do everything that we can to help you be a success. You have to be a success to help us get through this challenging time, not just from, the local area, but globally. And we really appreciate all the hard work that you and your team have been making out there to make our lives better, to give us a bright future, to achieve prosperity. Go out to the Industrial Talk, industrialtalk.com, find out more about the Industrial Academy, and be bold, be brave, dare greatly. You're changing the world. Thank you. We will be back with another great interview shortly.